Hello and welcome. It is finally here, draft week. No longer are we waiting. No more player profiles. We are officially done for the 2023 cycle. Bailey Kumar over here, Michael Rochman right here. We are here for the final mock draft for this, draft week. The draft starts this Thursday. We are absolutely excited about it. And this is pretty much a preview, a direct spoiler of what's about to happen because me and Bailey Kumar can't get better. This is going to be the Thursday night results, so you better pay attention. And we're ready. One rounder here for you. Bailey Kumar, you are going to start with the Carolina Panthers on the clock at number 1 and take us through it.
Yeah, just want to say before we start, this is a predictive mock one rounder. This is what we think that the NFL is going to do. So if you see a guy that we pick and we kind of slam him a bit in the report or the profile we did, don't go yelling at us. We don't control these teams. This is just what we think they're going to do. To start us off, the Panthers, I feel like this has been an obvious pick for weeks now. It's Bryce Young. There's nobody else. You want to build your franchise up again, this is the guy you do it with. Young right here, number 1.
Yeah, and there's been some Reddit rumors about Will Levis. Ultimately, I agree with you that I think it's going to be Bryce Young. He's got a lot of great traits, and I think he's going to be a fantastic quarterback there in Carolina. And at pick number 2, it sounds like Houston is all in on Bryce Young or bust at the quarterback position. And it sounds like they aren't even that in on Will Anderson at number 2. Tyree Wilson, the current favorite to go number 2 in this draft. And I'm going to listen to Vegas, so I'm going to go with Tyree Wilson, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Look, I think DeMeco Ryans is all in on trying to build those traits up and try to develop the high upside guy. If he views that as Tyree Wilson, I'm not going to disagree with him. I still like the pick here at number 2, and I think it's a great start in the right direction for the defensive identity of the Texans.
Yeah, the arm length, the power, these are just kind of, nobody else does it better than Wilson in terms of raw traits. This is a home run pick. You're not taking a safe double with a guy like Anderson, who I still think is the best player in the draft. I think his upside is humongous, but it seems like the NFL kind of sees him as the safer prospect, with Wilson as the more higher upside guy. So yeah, I don't blame the Texans at all for taking Wilson here at number 2. For number 3, the Cardinals are up. And this might be a pick that I don't know if people are going to like or not, but I have them taking Paris Johnson Jr. I think right now the number 1 imperative has to be to protect Kyler Murray. You're kind of all in on him as a QB. And if he doesn't pan out, then he doesn't pan out. You kind of have to go through a tough rebuild again. But right now, this is kind of your guy, and you need to build around your guy as best as you can.
I definitely agree with you, and I think a lot of people are going to be upset with this pick, but Paris Johnson Jr. has some great traits, great length, great athleticism. He's someone that could very easily be a franchise left tackle, and if Arizona views him in that way, then he's absolutely worth the pick at number 3. I know a lot of people want Will Anderson. I think both of us would probably take Will Anderson, but there's definitely a chance that Arizona goes in a different direction, kind of build their new offensive identity with Cliff Kingsbury getting fired this offseason. At pick number 4, Indianapolis Colts are on the clock, and I'm going Will Levis. Look, I know some people are going to want Richardson or Stroud, and I totally understand. Personally, I have Richardson as my quarterback too. I'd probably go in that direction if I were making the decision, but I think right now the Indianapolis Colts have kind of had a lot of smoke surrounding them with Will Levis. There's some guys that have been saying, they're going to go with someone else, but ultimately, I think Ballard's going to swing for the fences with the quarterback situation. Will Levis has a high ceiling. I think Shane Steichen does a great job of developing quarterbacks. Maybe you don't love Will Levis. I still think there's plenty to like in his game. I think he has some great upside. And I think for the pick number 4, it's what's going to happen here with the Kentucky product being the pick.
I agree with you too, even though, like you, I personally have Stroud a little bit higher. Levis is still a great quarterback who's kind of been knocked unfairly, I will say, in the draft process, kind of just as the common opinion as being the quarterback 4, where it seems like the NFL is higher on him. And I agree that I think if Young's off the board, that Levis is the second QB to come off the board, whether that's the Colts or maybe the Texans at 2 take him. But yeah, definitely Will Levis QB2 in the NFL's eyes. For pick 5, we got the Seahawks here. They can go in a couple different directions here, but personally, I think they were going to go with Will Anderson. This is kind of, you have Anthony Richardson here. You could take him behind Geno, but I'm a big Geno guy. He's only 32. He had an amazing season last year. Kind of see what you got around him. Why trying to take Richardson, who, okay, he'll be better than Geno Smith, but you have the guy right there. Start him. You got him on a nice contract. Kind of build a team around him and see what you can do. Push. The NFC's weak right now. You can definitely make a deep playoff push. Even win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith as your quarterback. I believe that. And when you take a guy like Will Anderson, you know he's amazing. He's a safe prospect. He's a game changer on that defense. And boom, right back in playoff contention.
And regardless of where they go with that number 5 pick, I think what a board for them to have with Anthony Richardson, Will Anderson Jr., and Jalen Carter, all options there at number 5. I think that's a dream for Seahawks fans to kind of have the GM really get to decide what direction they want to go and what path they want to take with this draft. And, I think plenty of fans will be more than happy to end up with Will Anderson on draft night. At pick number 6, Detroit Lions are on the board, and I have them going Devon Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois. Maybe it's that Kirby Joseph connection that has me thinking that the Lions are all in on Devon Witherspoon. They seem to love those hard-nosed guys. He's someone that can kind of come downhill and work well in run support, but he's a great cornerback as well, someone that makes plays on the ball, play physical and coverage. He has what it takes to be a star cornerback in the league. A lot of debate between him and Christian Gonzalez as first cornerback off the board, but the momentum is going in Witherspoon's direction, and I think the Lions are the reason for that, and they make him the pick at number 6.
Yeah, after trading Okuda, they did sign Cam Sun to a nice deal, but they still do need some cornerback help, and Witherspoon, Gonzalez, take your pick. Both of them are going to be great. And I picked number 7. Feel like Vegas has a similar mindset there as they take the other guy. They take Christian Gonzalez. This could be a QB. This could be like you have Stroud sitting there. That's a very kind of nice pick for the Raiders, but you just signed Jimmy G to that huge contract. I don't think it's a good look for an organization to kind of take a QB when they just signed one to a pretty big contract. Doesn't send a good message to the players. So I have them taking Gonzalez. They do need corner help. They've kind of tried in the past to fix that room to not a lot of success. And I think Gonzalez is their best shot at finally getting some solid players in that room.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. And, Terry Fontenot's sitting there at number 8, and he's thinking about who he wants to go with, who he wants to pick. And then the phone rings. Nick Caserio on the line. He's ready to trade up. The Houston Texans are going to send pick number 12, pick number 65, and pick number 161 for the 8th pick. And, maybe additional change on top just to sweeten the deal. But ultimately, the Texans are going to come up to number 8. They're going to add Jalen Carter to this defense as well. Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter paired to that defensive line in DeMeco Ryans' first draft as head coach. And he is going to take a tremendous step in the right direction for this new defensive identity in Houston. I think, there's a lot of questions surrounding Jalen Carter with the offseason that he's had and some red flags that maybe he's raised in terms of, how much does he love the game of football? How much is he going to work towards developing his skill set? But the upside is there. If he can get in the right situation, the right team, the right environment, then he could absolutely be a star. And I think working with a player-friendly guy like DeMeco Ryans could absolutely be the perfect formula for success and for superstardom for Jalen Carter.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're the Texans, you're kind of thrilled this draft. You get 2 blue chip prospects on the defensive line. You know how much those 49ers guys love the trench play, and this is a transformative draft for them in terms of their defensive identity. With the next pick, we've got another trade. Phone rings again. The Bears traded back once. They're trading back again. And, I don't think it's a team that many people would expect, but I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trading up to pick number 9 to, of course, take a QB, the QB being CJ Stroud. There's a Tom Brady-sized hole right now at the quarterback room, and I just think that the Bucs aren't a bad team. They looked rough during parts last year, but that offense is still very good. They have a lot of playmakers there. The defense is still solid. There's still pieces there. I think that they will view themselves as still a team in contention that's just a quarterback away. And CJ Stroud, you can just put him in that offense and let him go. He is going to produce for you. He is pro ready. He's able to make those reads. And I think this is kind of a perfect situation for the Buccaneers. In terms of the trade, they are giving up pick 19. They're giving up a future first, their next year first, which could be risky. And they're giving up a 3rd round pick. And if that's all you need to give up to kind of get your franchise guy, I think that's the price you're willing to pay.
Yeah, one of the big critiques on CJ Stroud was the amount of talent he was surrounded with at Ohio State. But, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, even Cade Otton had a very good rookie season at tight end. Rashad White looked pretty good as a rookie running back. There's a lot of talent on that Tampa Bay offense to where he's going to be able to be supported by a nice, strong system of weapons that's going to help him kind of continue on the right track as a rookie. Look, like you said, a lot of people have kind of started to crash down on CJ Stroud with criticism lately. he's still a very good quarterback. And I think for Tampa Bay, get a nice addition at the quarterback room. With the 10th pick of the draft, the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock, and they're going to take Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher out of Iowa. Look, Howie Roseman loves to build in the trenches, and a guy like Lucas Van Ness is a perfect addition to that defensive end position because, look, there's a lot of criticism about how he didn't start at Iowa. Really, that was more of a seniority thing than it was a talent issue. So Van Ness is going to be perfectly fine in the NFL. And look, maybe he won't start for Philadelphia, but he's going to have a high impact. They love to rotate their edge rushers, and he's going to be a guy that makes a consistent impact as a pass rusher, going to stop the run well. He has a great build, great frame. I think, there's talk about guys like Nolan Smith from the edge position, but I think he kind of overlaps with what Hassan Reddick is doing for Philadelphia. So really you kind of go for someone who brings a unique element, and I think Van Ness brings that with his size and power frame and, the upside to be an impact edge rusher for the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that was already very good last season.
Yeah, and Van Ness is a great pick here. I think he'll kind of slide in perfectly to their scheme and what they like to do, and the traits to kind of look out of their edge rushers. I don't know how many Philly fans want Bijan. I would love to see Bijan on that offense. Kind of, you had that Super Bowl run. You replace Miles Sanders with Bijan. That's a huge upgrade in my opinion. But I think we know how at this point he's just not going to do it at pick 10. And Van Ness is still a great player to get at that spot. For pick 11, we had the Titans, and I'm going to end up giving them Anthony Richardson. Look, Ryan Tannehill, he's 35, last year of your contract. Such an important player to that franchise, kind of what he did for them. But at the end of the day, you got to know when it's time to move on. They do have still Malik Willis in that quarterback room. When he was thrust into action last season, he didn't look great. And I think if you're the Titans, you can't pass up an opportunity to get Anthony Richardson here at 11. We're kind of giving you where the option of getting your franchise QB is kind of just gifted to you on a silver platter. You don't have to give up any assets, any future capital. You can just get a guy like Richardson, sit behind a year of Tannehill, and then see what you have next year.
Yeah, and again, people are going to talk about Malik Willis as someone that they should remain invested in. And I understand that. I liked Malik Willis as a prospect, but you're getting someone that has more arm talent, more athleticism, a bigger frame, and is younger. So, at an opportunity where you don't have to give up draft capital, I think it's too good of an opportunity to pass on. And for that reason, I think if Anthony Richardson is there at 11, it has to be the pick. And then at number 12, the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock after their trade down with the Texans. And I have them going Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas. Look, you look at last year for the Atlanta Falcons, Tyler Algier was able to rush for about 1,200 yards. Sorry, not 12,000. That was a little crazy, but Bijan is going to be able to produce probably even at a more efficient rate. I understand that Algier looked very good as a rookie, and you could feasibly roll with him again next year. But ultimately, I think getting both in that backfield is great for that offense. You kind of build up another weapon for that offense. Desmond Ritter's hopefully going to be the QB of the future for Atlanta, so you get a situation where he's surrounded by a guy like Bijan who's going to be the offensive identity, and it makes things work a lot more efficiently in that offense. Arthur Smith always going to cook up a great run game. Bijan in that system, it's absolute fireworks for the Falcons.
Yeah, like you said with Art Smith, best offense he ran was when he had Derrick Henry in that backfield, and he was able to take advantage of defenses constantly worrying about Henry and make them pay off those play actions. And Tyler Algier had a great rookie season, but the difference between him and Bijan in terms of what defensive coordinators are going to worry about, the gap is huge. This will unlock so much things for them on offense that I think it's a great pick. It's a no-brainer pick, almost, in my opinion. At pick 13, I have the Packers, their new 13th overall pick. They got on that Aaron Rodgers trade, and this might be just me going off the rails. We know the Packers' history. They never do this, but I have them taking Jackson Smith and Jigba at pick 13, a first-round wide receiver. They need receiver talent so bad, and we've heard the song and dance in the previous years, and they've never done it. But I think this is the year. This is the year they finally do it. They get the round one wide receiver. They make, I think their goal right now, if you're the Packers, is kind of make Jordan Love's transition as smooth as possible, because he's got some big shoes to step into, especially, knowing the history of the Packers and kind of their quarterback history. There's a lot of pressure on this guy, and you kind of want to give him all the tools to succeed as possible. And I don't think there's a better option for them to do that than to take JSN right here.
Yeah, it almost feels like an insult straight to Aaron Rodgers to pick a wide receiver the time you finally have the opportunity and he's gone. But I don't think it's an insult. I think it's just a smart pick. Look, they have Christian Watson, they have Romeo Dubs. There's potential in that room, but to get a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba, where he'll probably step in and be able to contribute at a high level immediately, kind of be that wide receiver one in an offense that needs it, in a situation where a quarterback needs that sort of safety blanket type of weapon. I think it's a great pick and a great option for that offense where, you're making the job easier for Jordan Love, similar to why we had the Falcons select Bijan Robinson. It makes sense for the Packers to select Jackson Smith and Jigba here at 13. And then at pick 14, the New England Patriots are on the clock, and I have them going with Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee. Look, a lot of people like Broderick Jones, but for the Patriots specifically, they love experience out of their offensive linemen. Darnell Wright has 42 career starts. Broderick Jones has 19. Darnell Wright put on an absolute showing this season going against SEC competition. And, one of the biggest critiques on his film is that he wasn't super athletic, dropped a ton of weight this offseason and turned in a monster combine. I think the potential is sky high for him. I think he's going to be an elite tackle in the NFL. Can't go wrong with some of these top tackles in this class, but for the Patriots, I think they're going to lean Darnell Wright in terms of who they prefer.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of that 2020 offensive tackle class where you had those big guys at the top, kind of just pick your preference. Which guy you like the most? Do you like Tristan Wirfs? Do you like Andrew Thomas? Dealer's choice. And, Wright's a great player. I think he's absolutely in that range with Paris Johnson Jr. and with Broderick Jones. With pick 15, the Jets are up and they'll take the other guy. I think they're happy to take Broderick Jones here at OT3. You just trade for Aaron Rodgers. He's used to a very nice, strong O-line back in Green Bay. And I think you have to replicate that as best as you can. You brought in all those other weapons. You got to replace that O-line strength as well. And I don't think there's a better option for them on the board right now than other than to take Jones and kind of hope that he can provide some stability at the tackle position, which the Jets have Mekhi Becton. He hasn't played a lot. I think that they need a starter right there, right now, and nobody's better than Jones.
Yeah, I love Broderick Jones. He's personally my OT1 for this class, and I really like what he brings to the game. And for the New York Jets, if they're able to get him here at 15, I mean, that's a wonderful pick. Even if they were to have stayed at 13 and selected him, I would have loved it. Even if they were to be taking him top 10, I would have thought it was a great pick. He's a great player and absolutely worth the value here at 15. At pick number 16, the Washington Commanders are on the board. And, very similar to that offensive tackle situation, the cornerback class is very much kind of pick your preference. And I think they're going to prefer Deonte Banks, a guy that has great athleticism, great size, and some great production on field. You look at what he can do for Maryland, and I think he translates very well, actually, to the Commanders defense. And that's a room that absolutely needs cornerback help. Getting Deonte Banks into that cornerback room takes a major step forward for that defense and kind of adds some secondary identity that is much lacking for that team.
Yeah, when you look at a guy like Banks, he ticks off a lot of check boxes that you look for in a corner. He's got the tape, he's got the athleticism, he's got the measurables, and this is kind of just a slam dunk pick for the Commanders. With the next pick, the Steelers, they take the other guy. As you mentioned, Banks versus Porter. I think the Steelers are thrilled to get Porter here. They've been bleeding cornerback talent for the last couple of years. They lost Cam Sutton. They lost a couple other guys. They haven't been really able to replace them on their roster, and they need a shutdown guy right now. And I don't think there's a better option for them than Porter right now on the board.
Yeah, I like the pick for the Steelers. And, a lot of people talk about the bloodlines and they think it's just going to automatically happen. But the Steelers, they kind of value that. So a guy like Joey Porter, if he's there on the board, I think they're going to run up to the podium, and I think it's going to be a great pick for them. At pick number 18, the Detroit Lions are on the clock. They already got their cornerback. Now they're focusing on the trenches. And I've been going with Kalijah Kancey, a guy that I think is going to make a pass rushing impact. Look, they have Alan McNeil to kind of play that nose tackle spot. They get Kancey to play that three tech position, and I think he's going to produce. He's not the next Aaron Donald. That's an unfair comparison to set onto him. It's unfair for really anyone to try to be Aaron Donald because Aaron Donald is one of one. But Kalijah Kancey is someone that is going to make an impact. He has great speed, great lateral quickness. He shoots creases extremely well on the offensive line to get into the backfield and produce as a pass rusher and disrupt the play as good as a defensive tackle can. So for a guy like Kancey, I see the upside. I see the appeal. The NFL probably a little bit higher on him than I am, but still I see the upside. And that's someone that I think the Detroit Lions are going to be very invested in this draft process.
Okay, after some technical difficulties on my end, not Michael's end, we are back. We're at pick 19. This is the Bears traded back pick, first pick in the draft, and I have them going Peter Skoronski. The Bears' offensive line needs some work. Justin Fields had to scramble way too often last year. He looked great doing it, but ideally you want him to kind of sit back in that pocket, deliver passes downfield, and have something that he can kind of stand in for longer than 2.5 seconds. I think Skoronski, even though his kind of evaluation is a bit tough, is he a tackle? Is he a guard? I think that he allows the Bears to kind of play their best 5 offensive linemen, which is the ideal situation for them right now.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower on Skoronski compared to the consensus opinion on him, but I do think that he can probably make do at right tackle. And I think the Bears kind of perfectly situate him for that, where they have Braxton Jones at left tackle. He can play in on the right side. And, you look at what Skoronski brings as an athlete in terms of his technique. He does some really nice stuff. And I think here at 19, it's a lot better value than maybe higher up in this draft for the Bears. Protecting Justin Fields is never a bad thing. Adding to the trenches, never really a bad idea. You can never have enough protection and offensive linemen for your team. So I don't hate the pick at all. And I think it's a very nice selection here at 19, especially with the additional capital that they're able to acquire.
At pick 20, the Seahawks are back on the clock with their second pick in the first round. And with the first pick, they took Will Anderson. Here at 20, they go offense. I think they're going Zay Flowers. This kind of may seem like a bit of a weird pick. They already have 2 great wide receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, but Lockett is getting up there in age, and you kind of need some options behind them. When you look at that Seahawks depth chart, there isn't a ton of talent that can kind of fill in if Metcalf or Lockett would miss some time. Zay Flowers is a great scheme fit in that Waldron system where you kind of get the ball in his hands and watch him go off. I thought he had a great combine. He ran a great 40. He came in over 180 pounds, which is huge for him. And I think he's a great pick here for the Seahawks.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people may question the wide receiver need for the Seahawks specifically, but they were able to put a second round pick on Dwayne Eskridge just a couple years back, and he hasn't really panned out into much besides being depth and some return ability. So you look at a guy like Zay Flowers here at 20, and I think the value is absolutely worth it to where they open up this offense and add a third electric weapon, and I think it's going to have great rewards. At pick 21, Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock, and I have them going Nolan Smith. And, it's a similar situation to that Seahawks pick before where they have 2 studs in Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, that they could very easily roll with, but they're kind of playing the board here, taking more of a BPA approach because the wide receivers available don't really fit that deep threat need that they kind of have at wide receiver. So they take a guy like Nolan Smith that you can kind of scheme around in that defense, let him operate in the open field, rotate the edge pretty consistently so both guys can stay healthy over the course of the season, and you're going to have a higher impact defense. And a lot of the great teams have a healthy rotation of edge rushers, and I think with the Chargers having Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, and Nolan Smith as a 3-headed monster, that's going to lead to some great results and some very scared quarterbacks in the AFC West.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That would be one of the more deadly pass rushing groups in the league. And with pick 22, the Ravens are up. I have them going wide receiver here, and I have them taking Quentin Johnston. This kind of approach is let's get Lamar as much help as possible. He's playing on the tag. You want to get him on that long-term deal. You kind of have to give him all the tools to succeed so he doesn't have any more excuses anymore. We've heard this in the past. Lamar doesn't have the pass catching options. The offensive coordinator isn't good enough. And you kind of go out and you replace the offensive coordinator. You bring in OBJ. You get a first-round wide receiver, and you give Lamar all the options available to him to succeed as quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big question is just, can Lamar stay healthy? He's been performing even with subpar offenses, really, and it's just trying to stay healthy over the course of the season. Getting a guy like Quentin Johnson is going to make some easier, quicker passes, situations where, they can manufacture some touches, get the ball out of Lamar's hands a little bit quicker, a little bit more efficiently. And maybe, as a result, we're going to see some healthier play and a season-long performance where he can go into playoffs healthy with a chance to contend, because that Ravens roster is absolutely worthy of being good enough to potentially make a run at a Super Bowl. At pick number 23, the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock. And look, I look at that wide receiver unit and I see a big issue of who's going to be wide receiver 2 opposite of Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne, is a solid wide receiver, but I don't think he's the guy that kind of steps up into that next level role. I think you go with Jordan Addison here. Maybe a little bit of overlapping skill set with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, but I think they're so good and so talented that it doesn't really matter that much to where both guys can coexist in the same offense and they're going to be able to produce. I think Kirk Cousins would be more than happy to add that second weapon with Adam Thielen heading off to Carolina. Getting this guy here at 25 or 23, sorry, is a great steal. And I think he's been very underrated through this process because he came in a little lighter at the combine, didn't run as fast as people were expecting, but the tape speaks for itself. He's a smooth athlete and a guy that's going to win consistently. And I think he's been productive through his career for that reason. And he's going to continue in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, losing Thielen does hurt, but, he was dealing with injuries. He slowed down towards that last season, and getting a young guy like Addison, there, like you said, some overlap with Jefferson, but that's not really a problem you have with kind of their skill sets. There's kind of their smoothness, their release, their ability to get open. That's going to work wonders in their system. For the next pick with the Jags, pick 24. And look, when you look at the AFC South, not a great division historically last couple of years, but when you look at the one thing they do have is rushing defensive tackles. You got Jeffrey Simmons, you got DeForest Buckner, and you just had the Texans trading up Jalen Carter. Those are guys you have to face at least 6 times a year. And so when you have a young quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, the number one thing you got to do when you kind of look at the division is get interior offensive line help. In saying that, I have them getting Osiris Torrance here at pick 24. The Jags offensive line was good, but, just good. It can be elevated to that next level. And adding a guy like Torrance, who can kind of line up at either guard spot and provide some nice, solid production for the Jags, and who's by far and away my offensive guard one in this class, would be a great pick here at 24.
Yeah, I think some people kind of question the value of an offensive guard in the first round, but you're investing in your other assets. So getting Osiris Torrance on this offensive line is going to help keep Trevor Lawrence's jersey clean. And that's going to make the offense perform better as a whole. And that's even going to create opportunities for Travis Etienne in the running game. I love Osiris Torrance. I think he's an absolute mauler. He can create opportunities both in the run and pass situations to where he's going to be effective. I think, they run a little thin at offensive tackle with Walker Little. So getting a guy that's so big and bulky like Osiris Torrance on the inside, that helps offset some of the limitations of their offensive line. Look, you have to protect Trevor Lawrence. That's the big thing here. And I think getting Osiris Torrance is an absolute way of accomplishing that. At pick number 25, I have the New York Giants selecting Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback out of Mississippi State. Vegas has their odds as negative 400 for Emmanuel Forbes going in the first round. That means there's some confidence there. And you look at the historic picks of the Giants, just looking at last year, guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, Cordell Flott earlier than expected, because they don't seem to put a lot of value in the body weight system. They think they can add it through the NFL training and strength conditioning regime. So, getting a guy like Forbes who has the absolute skill set, the talent, and the ability, if you can develop him and get some muscle mass onto his body, he's going to be a great cornerback. And I think the Giants absolutely value that and look for him to be the cornerback opposite of Adoree Jackson for their defense.
Yeah, it's a great fit in their system and kind of makes sense philosophically what they like to do there. Absolutely. With the next pick, the Cowboys are up, and this has kind of been a tip pick for a while, and I think they're just going to go ahead and go for it. I think they're going to take Michael Mayer as a tight end. They've had a hole there for a while, and he fits so perfectly in that offense. You've heard the pro comparison a lot of time. Jason Witten, I think, is a bit lofty of a comp for Mayer at this point, but he's still a very talented player in a very kind of hotly contested tight end one situation where there's a ton of different options they can go here. I think Mayer is the best fit in that offense and what they're looking for out of the position.
Yeah, Mayer just screams Cowboys, and I feel like Jerry loves to chase the big name sometimes, and Michael Mayer kind of fits that blueprint of the big name type player that he would add. Obviously, he wants to add to the offensive production, and he's been pursuing a lot of great big name players, Brandon Cooks, Stephon Gilmore. I think he continues doing that in the draft with Michael Mayer. I like Jake Ferguson. I like Peyton Hendershot, but I think, if they're your tight end 2 and tight end 3, that's more than okay with you if you're the Cowboys. So I like the pick, and I think it's very reasonable. At pick 27, the Buffalo Bills are on the clock, and they go a little bit of a BPA approach, and they take Myles Murphy at the edge. He kind of fits the overall style of defensive end that they look for. They love to pick from Clemson. Look, if you have a situation where Myles Murphy is opposite Von Miller, you're going to be more than happy with that, and that's a great situation. There's some other needs, linebacker, wide receiver, some other positions that have been talked about, but with Myles Murphy on the board, I think the Bills adjust and they take their BPA, and they're more than happy with the selection.
Yeah, I think Bills fans are all too used to taking edges in the early rounds. It's clearly a position that the front office values, and Myles Murphy is kind of just too good of a value to pass up here. In the real draft, he probably goes a little bit higher, but guys fall all the time. Somebody's got to fall, and Buffalo takes advantage of that and gets a huge, huge value here late in the first round. With the next pick, I have the Bengals, and this is going to be I don't know how controversial of a pick, but I think they go Jahmyr Gibbs. I thought they were going to cut Joe Mixon last season. I mean, this season, this offseason. I thought he looked kind of slow. He looks like he lost a step. And with his contract and what they're kind of building, you got to pay T. Higgins. You got to pay Joe Burrow. It seems like Mixon was kind of the obvious cut candidate, but they didn't seem to do it this year. Maybe they'll do it next. And Gibbs is a perfect kind of complement to Mixon. He has that value on third down as a pass catcher. He fits stylistically well. It's kind of the opposite to Mixon and kind of how he runs. And he's just going to unlock a whole nother level to that Bengals offense, which is already very impressive.
Yeah, like you said, the Bengals offense was extremely impressive this last year, but the big thing was it was supposed to be probably the top unit in the NFL with Joe Mixon being a key part of that. Unfortunately, it looks like he's kind of taken a step back. The offensive line dealt with some injuries, but now they bring in Jahmyr Gibbs in this situation, and they're not going to have that step back running back. They're going to have the elusive open field threat that you can never leave uncovered, or else he's going to break for 60. And you have to stack the box on some plays because if not, he's going to run to the outside and take a first down with ease. So what Jahmyr Gibbs brings to this offense would be absolutely deadly. And I love the pick here at 28 for them. At 29, the New Orleans Saints are on the clock, and I have them going with Bryan Bresee, defensive tackle out of Clemson. 2022 wasn't his best season, but he was dealing with an ACL injury that he was recovering from. He was dealing with sickness for the season, and there was some offseason stuff that he was dealing with his family that more proofs that Bryan Bresee is a warrior for what he was able to do this season, more so than reasons to criticize his game. I think he has tremendous upside, and I think he should be going way higher in this draft, but he's probably going to end up late first, early second type pick. And whoever gets him, I think is going to be very happy. And New Orleans Saints in this situation is that team that's going to be ecstatic with the selection.
Yeah, there's definitely worries with Bresee. Obviously, the injuries, the production, but the Saints, I think, when you look at kind of their interior defensive line situation, there's not a lot of great guys there, not a lot of talent. They can kind of afford to take a swing on Bresee and hope that you can kind of unlock those traits and that potential to be a productive player for them. At pick 30, we got a trade up. We got the Las Vegas Raiders trading up into the first round. And no, they're not going quarterback. This is not the Hendon Hooker pick. They are going with Dalton Kincaid, a tight end. The Raiders kind of just traded their starting tight end, Darren Waller. He was on a bigger contract. He couldn't really stay healthy with them. And they used that pick 100, to trade up from pick 239 to this pick in the first round and get Kincaid, who is one of the best pass catchers, period, in this draft. Not just as a tight end, but when you include the wide receivers and the running backs, I think Kincaid is one of the best guys who can kind of add what Waller has been to that offense, just as a younger and healthier version of that.
And this is absolutely an investment in Jimmy Garoppolo, and what a job they've done if this is the way they go about it, with adding Devontae Adams in the past and then now getting Jacoby Myers with Jimmy in this season, and then now Dalton Kincaid in the draft. I mean, there's no excuses for Jimmy Garoppolo but to compete in this AFC West. And, you got to have offensive firepower to do it. And with weapons like Kincaid, Myers, Adams, and Josh Jacobs in the backfield, they're very well set up to do so. And I'm very excited to see what could happen if this is the pick on draft night. And at number 31, the Kansas City Chiefs wrap up the first round with Anton Harrison, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. A great scheme fit, a guy that can get vertical in his pass sets extremely well. I think he's someone that probably deserves a lot more talk with the higher tackles in this class than he gets right now. A lot of potential, a lot of upside with his play. He's going to be someone that I think in time is one of the better tackles in the NFL. I think he has a lot of potential, a lot of athletic ability, and what a great scheme fit for the Kansas City Chiefs. A perfect situation where at 31, they're more than happy with the pick to invest further in Patrick Mahomes, make sure he stays clean and healthy in that pocket. And, you keep Mahomes healthy and you're a contender, it seems, no matter who you put around him.
Yeah, and they lost Orlando Brown this offseason. They replaced him with Jawan Taylor, but they still have that hole on the right side. I know they have some guys in there they like, but the value is too good here for Harrison, who can immediately slot into that right tackle, start day one, keep Mahomes clean, and really they're kind of rebuilding their offensive line. With when you have Orlando Brown as your left tackle, he kind of limits what you're able to do. But when you kind of give him more athletic options there on the corners, he will be able to do more, provide more magic out of the pocket. And I'm just excited to see what he does.
Absolutely. And this is the first round of our mock draft. That is all we have for you guys. We appreciate you staying through if you are here still at the very end. please like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Let us know what you thought of the mock. And also let us know what you want to see this offseason. When the draft is over, we have an offseason, an entire football season that we got to fill with content. We want to know what you guys want to see. So let us know in the comment section. We are open to listening to ideas, so we're more than happy to do so. We'll see you guys after the draft, but until then, take care, and hopefully your team picks who you want. And that's the 2-minute drill.